The alarm screams through Cedar Gate Medical Center at 2:47 a.m. Red emergency lights pulse across polished floors as armed men in tactical gear form a perimeter around room 308. Inside, a patient, classified, unidentified, supposedly sedated, sits upright in restraints, eyes tracking every movement outside his door. Then she walks past the guards like they're furniture. White coat, blonde hair pulled back, face blank as winter. The guards don't stop her. One actually steps aside. She enters the room, and the most dangerous man in the facility watches her approach with something that looks like recognition. Captain Holloway slams his fist on the nurse's station desk. "You're a nurse. This is military jurisdiction. Walk away." She nods once, soft-voiced, submissive, but her eyes tell a different story, the kind you only learn in places where submission means survival. If you want to see how this story ends, stick with me until the final moment. Like this video, drop a comment with your city so I can see how far this story travels. Now, let's begin. The night shift at Cedar Gate Medical Center had a rhythm Elena Voss had learned to read like Morse code. Third floor, East Wing, 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. Mostly geriatric overflow, post-surgical recoveries. The occasional detox case who'd scream about spiders until dawn. She'd been there 6 weeks, long enough that the other nurses stopped watching her like she might steal narcotics. Not long enough that anyone asked about her life before. She preferred it that way. Elena pushed her cart down the hallway, checking vitals on autopilot. Mrs. Brennan in 304, stable. Mr. Okoye in 306, sleeping off his hip replacement. Room 308 had been empty yesterday. Tonight it had guards. 2 men in dark suits stood flanking the door. Not hospital security, wrong posture, wrong build. Their jackets didn't quite hide the shoulder holsters. Elena slowed her cart, keeping her face professionally blank. "Evening," she said, voice soft. Neither man responded. The taller one had a scar cutting through his left eyebrow. The shorter one wore an earpiece, the wire disappearing into his collar. Both watched her with the flat assessment of people paid to notice threats. Elena moved to room 309. Through her peripheral vision, she counted exits, noted sightlines, cataloged the weight distribution in their stances, old habits, the kind that didn't die just because you changed careers. Nurse Voss. She turned. Charge nurse Patricia Moreland stood at the desk, her reading glasses on a beaded chain, her expression pinched with that particular brand of administrative irritation Elena had seen 1,000 times. Patricia was 50-something, competent, and deeply invested in things running smoothly. Unexpected armed men violated smooth. "Yes? Room 308, you're not assigned to that patient." "I wasn't aware we had a patient in 308. Patricia's mouth tightened. "We don't, officially." She glanced at the guards, lowered her voice. "Federal transfer, medical hold. Do not approach that room. Do not enter that room. Do not ask questions about that room." Elena nodded. "Understood." "I mean it, Voss. Whatever's happening there is above our pay grade. The administrator made it very clear, minimal contact, zero curiosity." "Got it." Patricia studied her for a moment, then seemed satisfied. She returned to her charting. Elena continued her rounds, but her mind was already working through variables. Federal transfer meant jurisdiction overlap. Medical hold meant neither fully incarcerated nor fully free. Armed guards outside instead of inside meant the threat assessment came from external actors, not the patient himself. She'd seen this before. Different hospital, different city, different war. At 1:15 a.m., Captain James Holloway arrived. Elena was restocking the supply closet when she heard boots on linoleum, the deliberate cadence of someone who expected obstacles to move. She stepped into the hallway as Holloway strode past, uniform crisp despite the hour, jaw set like he was walking into hostile territory. 2 more men in tactical gear followed him, rifles held low but ready. Patricia intercepted him at the nurse's station. "Sir, you can't bring weapons." "Captain James Holloway, U.S. Army Special Operations." He didn't slow down. "This is a secure military operation. Your facility is providing temporary medical housing. That's the extent of your involvement." "I need to see credentials." "Wohi." Holloway stopped, turned. His eyes were ice over concrete. "Ma'am, with all due respect, you need to step back and let us do our job. The patient in 308 is a classified military asset. He's under armed guard for everyone's protection, including yours. Your job is to stay out of the way. Patricia's face flushed. This is my floor. Not tonight it isn't. Elena watched from the supply closet doorway. Holloway's voice carried the particular authority of someone used to being obeyed without question. Patricia sputtered, caught between professional outrage and self-preservation instinct. She chose preservation, retreating to the desk with tight-lipped fury. Holloway's gaze swept the hallway. It caught on Elena for half a second. A visual dismissal, civilian, irrelevant, no threat, then moved on. He entered room 308. The door closed with a heavy click. Elena returned to her cart, checked the medication log, noted that room 308 had no medications listed, no treatment plan, no documented vitals since admission 6 hours ago. Just a name, Titan. Not a patient name, a designation. She'd worked battlefield triage in Kandahar province. She knew what it meant when they stopped using names. At 2:30 a.m., the screaming started. Not pain screaming, rage screaming. The sound of someone fighting restraints with enough force to crack bone. Elena was in room 312 when the first crash shook the wall. She abandoned the IV adjustment she'd been checking and moved into the hallway. The guards had their weapons drawn. Holloway burst from 308, face pale. Get a sedative, Dika, he barked at Patricia. Now. What dosage? I don't care, whatever knocks him out. Patricia grabbed a phone, started dialing. Elena moved closer to the door. Through the narrow window, she could see a man on the bed, mid-30s, muscular, hospital gown torn, leather restraints holding his wrists and ankles. His face was contorted with something beyond anger. Terror, maybe. A recognition of something worse than fear. Step back. One of the guards moved to block her view. Authorized personnel only. Elena stepped back, watched Patricia fumble with the medication cart, hands shaking as she drew up lorazepam with a dosage that would drop a horse. A resident appeared, looking half awake and terrified. Holloway grabbed the syringe from Patricia's hand and re-entered the room. The screaming cut off 30 seconds later. Silence flooded back in, thick and wrong. The guards relaxed fractionally. Patricia slumped against the desk. The resident muttered something about incident reports and fled. Elena returned to her cart, logged the noise complaint from room 311, administered pain medication to Mrs. Brennan, who'd woken up confused and frightened, kept her face professionally neutral while her mind ran probability assessments. Military asset having a psychological break. Special operations captain who treated medical staff like obstacles. Armed guard posture suggesting external threat, not internal containment. The math pointed to black ops, rendition, something off-book enough that protocol was being improvised in real time. She'd been in situations like this before. They never ended cleanly. At 3:45 a.m., Holloway cornered her at the medication room. You. He pointed at her like she was a subordinate. Your Voss? Yes. You were watching earlier, at the nurse's station. It wasn't a question, but Elena answered anyway. I work this floor, I notice things. Notice less. His voice dropped to command-grade threat. That room is classified. The patient is classified. Anything you hear, see, or think you understand is classified. You talk about this to anyone, staff, family, the press. You're looking at federal charges, obstruction, possibly treason, depending on what you say. Am I clear? Elena met his eyes. Saw a man used to intimidation working, used to civilians folding under military authority. She'd been that civilian once, long time ago. Crystal clear, Captain. Good. He turned to leave, paused. How long have you worked here? 6 weeks. Before that? County General, Trauma Unit. He nodded, filing it away. Stay in your lane, Nurse Voss. This situation is complicated enough without civilian interference. He walked away. Elena finished logging controlled substances, locked the cabinet, and returned to her rounds. Room 308's door remained closed. Guards remained posted. The night ticked forward with the artificial calm of a bomb waiting for the right trigger. At 4:20 a.m., the bomb found it. Elena was checking the crash cart inventory when she heard Patricia's sharp intake of breath. She looked up. A woman in an expensive charcoal suit was walking down the hallway, Heels clicking with boardroom confidence, tablet in hand, expression carved from corporate ice. Hospital Administrator Sarah Winters followed 2 steps behind, looking simultaneously deferential and terrified. The woman in the suit stopped at the nurse's station. I need all records related to the patient in room 308. Digital and physical. Patricia blinked. I'm sorry, who are... Dr. Rebecca Marsh, Department of Defense, Strategic Operations Division. She didn't offer credentials, didn't need to. Everything about her screamed authority 3 levels above anything Cedar Gate Medical Center usually dealt with. The records? Now. We don't have any records. The patient was admitted under military jurisdiction. You have admission paperwork, vitals, observation notes. Marsh's voice could have frozen nitrogen. Produce them or I'll have this facility's federal funding reviewed for compliance issues. Patricia scrambled for the charts. Elena kept her head down, organizing gauze packages with meticulous focus while listening to every word. Holloway emerged from 308, saw Marsh, and his entire posture shifted. Not quite attention, but close. Dr. Marsh, I wasn't informed you'd be on site. Your information isn't my priority, Captain. She accepted the charts from Patricia, scanned them with the speed of someone trained to extract data from chaos. The asset's condition? Stable, sedated. He had an episode around 0230, but we contained it. Episode. Marsh's eyes lifted from the tablet. Define episode. Psychological break. Violent attempt to escape restraints. We administered chemical sedation per protocol. Whose protocol? Holloway hesitated. Just a fraction of a second, but Elena caught it. So did Marsh. Captain, whose protocol authorized chemical sedation of a Phase 3 asset without psychiatric evaluation? The situation required immediate intervention. The situation required you to follow procedure. Marsh's voice didn't rise, didn't need to. This asset represents 18 months of intensive conditioning and $12 million in operational investment. You don't dose him like a drunk in county lockup. Elena carefully arranged the gauze. Didn't look up, didn't react, just listened. With respect, doctor, the asset was a threat to himself and the medical staff. The asset is always a threat. That's what we designed him to be. Marsh closed the tablet with a snap. I want updated vitals every hour, neurological assessment by dawn. And if he has another episode, you contact me before you reach for a syringe. Clear? Yes, ma'am. Marsh turned to Patricia. No staff enters that room without my explicit authorization. No exceptions. Patricia nodded mutely. Marsh's gaze swept the hallway, passed over Elena without interest, and she walked back toward the elevator with Administrator Winters scrambling to keep pace. Holloway watched her go, jaw working like he was chewing broken glass. Elena finished with the crash cart, logged the inventory, started her 5 a.m. rounds. Room 308 stayed quiet. Too quiet. The kind of silence that comes after you've drugged someone past the point of dreams. At 5:30 a.m., Elena found the first piece of the puzzle. She was disposing of sharps in the utility room when she noticed the trash can, specifically what someone had tried to hide under crumpled paper towels. A medication vial. Empty. She pulled it out, read the label. Haloperidol. 10 milligrams. She checked the disposal log. No record of haloperidol administration in the past 12 hours. Checked the medication cabinet. No missing vials. Someone had brought their own chemical restraint. Someone who didn't want records. Elena photographed the vial with her phone, old habit from documentation training, then disposed of it properly. Filed the information away under things that didn't add up. The list was getting long. At 6:15 a.m., day shift started arriving. Elena gave report to Marcus, the day charge nurse who had 20 years of experience and the weathered calm of someone who'd seen everything. She kept it brief, mentioned the guards, the federal patient, the orders to stay clear. Didn't mention the screaming, the unauthorized medication, or the DOD official who'd threatened federal funding. Marcus grunted. Another Tuesday. You've had this before? Federal transfers? Once or twice. Usually witness protection, occasionally classified medical cases. They show up, they leave. We don't ask questions. He signed off on the report. You did good not poking around. The administration loves plausible deniability. Elena nodded, gathered her things, headed for the locker room. Holloway intercepted her at the elevator. Nurse Voss. A word. She turned. He looked like he hadn't slept in 48 hours. The kind of exhaustion that comes with command responsibility and zero margin for error. I wanted to apologize for earlier. His voice was carefully modulated, professional. The security requirements made me abrupt. You were just doing your job. Elena said nothing. Apologies from men like Holloway usually came with hooks attached. I reviewed your employment file. He watched her face. Army medic, deployed twice. Kandahar province, 2019 to 2021. Combat triage specialist. Silver Star for evacuating wounded under fire. A pause. That's impressive. It was a long time ago. Not that long. He shifted his weight. Which is why I'm asking, if you see anything unusual on this floor tonight, anything that suggests a security breach or a threat to the patient in 308, I need you to report it immediately. Not to your charge nurse, to me directly. There it was. The hook. I'm a civilian employee of Cedar Gate Medical Center, Captain. My reporting structure is... Your reporting structure is whatever keeps this situation from becoming an incident. His voice hardened just enough to remind her what rank meant. We're talking about national security. I'm not asking you to spy on your colleagues. I'm asking you to help protect a vital military asset from threats you're trained to recognize. Elena met his eyes, saw desperation under the authority. He wasn't just managing security, he was managing something broken that he didn't fully understand. What kind of threats, Captain? That's classified. Then I can't help you. Holloway's jaw tightened. You're former military. You understand how this works. I do. Which is why I know that asking a civilian nurse to participate in classified security operations is either illegal, desperate, or both. She kept her voice level. No hostility, just fact. If you need additional medical personnel with security clearance, request them through proper channels. If you need surveillance on hospital staff, coordinate with administration. If you need me to report standard safety concerns through standard procedures, I'll do that. But I'm not playing games where I don't know the rules. For a moment, she thought he might push back. Pull rank, threaten consequences, remind her about federal charges and treason. But he just exhaled slowly and nodded. Fair enough. He handed her a card. Plain white, just a phone number. If anything happens, anything that feels wrong, call that number. Consider it a professional courtesy between veterans. Elena took the card, pocketed it without looking at the number. Anything else, Captain? Get some rest, Nurse Voss. She rode the elevator down alone, walked to her car through the pre-dawn gray, drove to her apartment in silence, mind working through everything she'd seen. Military asset, Phase 3. 18 months of conditioning, $12 million. Threats requiring armed guards and DoD oversight. Psychological breaks violent enough to crack restraints. She'd seen programs like this before. Different names, same blueprint. Humans turned into weapons through chemistry and trauma and relentless psychological pressure. Some of them survived the process. Most didn't. The ones who survived usually wished they hadn't. Elena unlocked her apartment door. Small one-bedroom, furnished with IKEA efficiency, walls bare except for a single photograph. Her unit in Kandahar, 12 soldiers squinting into the Afghan sun, half of them dead now. She looked at it for a moment, then turned away. She'd left that world behind, traded combat boots for nursing clogs, ballistic trauma for medication schedules, the weight of a rifle for the weight of other people's pain. It had been a clean break, a necessary one. But standing in her kitchen, waiting for coffee to brew, Elena could feel the old instincts waking up. The situational awareness, the threat assessment, the cold calculation of what happens when systems fail and people become collateral damage. She pulled out her phone, looked at the photo of the haloperidol vial. Unauthorized medication meant unauthorized action. Someone operating outside protocol. Someone hiding something. Her next shift was in 14 hours. She had a feeling that wouldn't be soon enough. Hikit. Elena slept in shifts. 3 hours, wake, assess, 3 more hours. Military sleep patterns. The kind that let you respond to mortars without the fog of deep REM. She dreamed in fragments. Kandahar heat. Blood on her hands. A patient who wouldn't stop screaming no matter how much morphine she pushed. When her alarm went off at 9 p.m., she was already awake. She dressed in scrubs, tied her hair back, checked her phone. No messages, no news alerts about incidents at Cedar Gate Medical Center. Whatever was happening in room 308 hadn't exploded yet. She arrived at 10:30 p.m. The parking lot was fuller than usual, more dark sedans with government plates, more men in suits trying to look casual while scanning everything that moved. Whatever Titan was, his security footprint was expanding. Marcus met her at this elevator. Your federal friends are still here. More of them now. Administration is losing their minds trying to figure out liability. Any incidents? Quiet as a morgue, which makes everyone more nervous. He handed her the assignment sheet. You've got the same section, including our classified guest. Elena scanned the list. Room 308 was still marked as occupied, still had no documented medications, still carried the notation, federal jurisdiction, minimal contact. Understood. The third floor looked like a military checkpoint. 4 guards now instead of 2. They'd set up a portable security station near the elevator. Elena had to show her ID badge 3 times before reaching the nurses' station. Patricia wasn't on duty. Instead, a nervous day shift supervisor named Gloria was trying to manage the floor while looking like she expected explosions any second. Thank God you're here, Gloria whispered. This place is insane. They won't let housekeeping on the floor. They're questioning every visitor. One of them asked to see my personnel file. Did you show it to them? Administrator said to cooperate fully. Gloria's hands shook as she sorted charts. What is this? Witness protection? Terrorist custody? Above our pay grade, remember? I hate this. I really hate this. Elena took report, stored her things, began her rounds. Room 308's door remained closed. Through the window, she could see Titan lying motionless under white sheets, restraints visible at wrists and ankles. No movement. No indication of consciousness. She moved to room 309. Mrs. Brennan was still there, still confused, asking why there were soldiers in the hallway. Elena reassured her with practiced gentleness, adjusted her IV, and made a note to request a psych consult for anxiety. At 11:45 p.m., Dr. Marsh returned. This time she brought company. 3 men in tactical gear, faces hard with the specific readiness of people who'd killed before and would kill again without hesitation. They moved in formation, trained, synchronized, lethal. Holloway met them at room 308. Elena couldn't hear the conversation, but body language told the story. Marsh was in command, Holloway was reporting. The tactical team was evaluating threats with cold professional assessment. Then Marsh turned and looked directly at Elena. Nurse Voss, a moment. Elena set down the medication cup she'd been preparing, walked over with the deliberate calm of someone who'd learned not to show fear to predators. Yes, ma'am? Marsh studied her with eyes that calculated value and threat in the same glance. Captain Holloway mentioned you have combat medical experience. I was an Army medic, honorable discharge 3 years ago. Kandahar Province. Yes. Trauma triage under fire. Silver Star citation for evacuating 12 wounded soldiers during a coordinated insurgent assault. Marsh didn't reference notes. She'd memorized the file. You maintained combat effectiveness through a 6-hour firefight while treating casualties with a collapsed lung and a broken arm. Elena said nothing. The Silver Star wasn't something she discussed, especially not the broken arm she'd splinted herself and kept working through because stopping meant people died. I need someone with your skill set on standby for the patient in 308, Marsh continued. Not regular nursing care, emergency medical intervention if his condition deteriorates. Are you willing to accept that assignment? Gloria started to protest. The staffing ratios will be compensated by federal resources. Marsh didn't look at her, kept her focus on Elena. Nurse Voss, yes or no? Every instinct Elena had screamed no. This was quicksand. This was how you got pulled into classified operations that destroyed careers and sometimes lives. This was the opposite of the clean break she'd made. But she thought about Titan, about what they'd done to him. About 18 months of conditioning and $12 million in operational investment and chemical restraints administered off-book. About the screaming. What's his condition? Classified. Then I can't assess what intervention might be needed. Marcia's expression didn't change, but something shifted in her eyes. Evaluation recalculating. You're refusing a direct request? I'm requesting medical information necessary to provide appropriate care. If his condition is classified, assign someone with clearance. Elena kept her voice professional. No challenge, just logic. I'm a civilian nurse, Dr. Marsh. You're asking me to provide emergency medical care without diagnosis, history, or treatment protocol. That's not how medicine works. Silence stretched. The tactical team watched with the flat attention of people waiting to see if violence would be necessary. Then Marsh did something unexpected. She smiled. Small, cold, but genuine. You're smarter than your file suggests. She pulled out a tablet, typed rapidly, turned it to show Elena. Sign this NDA. Then we'll talk about what you need to know. Elena read the document. Standard Federal Non-Disclosure Agreement, expanded to include criminal penalties for breach, extended to cover information obtained through inference or observation, no expiration date. The kind of legal trap that followed you forever. She signed it. Marsh gestured to room 308. Inside. They entered together, Marsh, Elena, and one of the tactical operators. Holloway remained outside, the door sealed with a heavy magnetic lock. Titan lay motionless on the bed. Up close, Elena could see the details. Muscular deterioration suggesting extended immobility, bruising around the restraint points, scars, surgical scars, precise and deliberate, along his temples, base of his skull, both forearms. His chest rose and fell with the slow rhythm of chemical sedation. His name is Aaron Mitchell, Marsh said. Former Marine, recruited into a classified enhancement program designated Project Hephaestus. The program uses neurological modification, pharmaceutical conditioning, and psychological restructuring to create operatives with enhanced threat response, pain tolerance, and combat efficiency. Elena kept her face neutral while her stomach turned to ice. She'd heard whispers about programs like this. Black budget research that turned soldiers into something else. Something that forgot how to be human. What went wrong? Who said anything went wrong? He's in a civilian hospital under armed guard with a DoD handler managing crisis containment. Elena met Marsh's eyes. Something went wrong. Marsh studied her for a long moment, then nodded. Phase 3 assets are designed to operate independently in hostile environments. Mitchell completed conditioning 6 weeks ago. First deployment was successful. Second deployment, she paused. He refused orders. Specifically, he refused a termination order. Termination of what? That's still classified. What matters is he experienced a psychological break during mission execution. Started having panic attacks, hallucinations, dissociative episodes. The program can't have assets questioning orders or breaking down in the field. We brought him here for evaluation and potential reconditioning. Elena looked at Mitchell's face. Even unconscious, it carried tension. Whatever they'd done to him hadn't taken away his humanity, just buried it under layers of chemical modification and psychological torture until he'd finally cracked. What kind of intervention might be needed? He's experiencing withdrawal from the conditioning pharmaceuticals. Side effects include violent psychosis, autonomic instability, possible seizures, or cardiac events. Marsh pulled up a chart on her tablet. If he destabilizes, you'll need to manage the medical emergency while we handle security containment. Translation: keep him alive while we restrain him. Elena reviewed the pharmaceutical profile. It read like a cocktail designed by someone who'd never considered whether the subject might want to stay human. Neurochemical modulators, adrenal agonists, serotonin blockers, experimental compounds with names that didn't appear in any civilian medical database. This is going to kill him, she said quietly. Not if we manage it correctly. You can't withdraw someone from this kind of chemical dependency without destroying their neurological function. He'll seize, stroke out, or go permanently psychotic. Which is why you're here. Marsh's voice carried no emotion, just facts. Keep him stable enough for reconditioning. That's the job. Elena looked at Mitchell again. Saw the scars, the restraints, the artificial stillness of sedation covering what was probably constant internal screaming. And if I can't, then he's a failed asset. We'll proceed accordingly. Proceed accordingly. Military euphemism for disposal. Elena had signed the NDA. She was already trapped, But she met Marsh's eyes and said the thing that would probably destroy her career. "I'm here to provide medical care, not to participate in—" The alarm screamed, not the medical alarm, the security alarm. A piercing electronic shriek that meant breach, intrusion, active threat. The tactical operator's radio crackled. "Multiple contacts, stairwell access, armed—" Gunfire erupted outside the room. Not pistol fire, automatic weapons. The distinctive chatter of suppressed rifles and the deeper bark of shotguns. Shouts, running footsteps, someone screaming. Marsh grabbed Elena's arm, pulled her away from the window. "Stay down." "What's happening?" "Containment breach." Marsh had a pistol in her hand now, safety off, barrel pointed at the floor. "They found him." "Who found him?" "The people who want him dead." More gunfire, closer. Elena heard the heavy thud of something hitting the floor, probably a body. The tactical operator moved to the door, weapon ready, stance combat tight. Mitchell's eyes opened. Not the slow flutter of someone waking from sedation. The instant awareness of someone who'd been waiting. He looked directly at Elena and said one word. "Run." Then the door exploded inward. The door didn't just open, it disintegrated. The blast tore through reinforced steel like tissue paper, sending fragments spinning through the air with enough velocity to embed in walls. Elena hit the floor on instinct, military training overriding 3 years of civilian softness. Marsh was already moving, weapon up, firing through the smoke before Elena's ears stopped ringing. The tactical operator went down first. 2 rounds center mass, professional grouping, no hesitation. He dropped without a sound. Through the cordite haze, Elena saw them. 4 figures in black tactical gear, faces covered, moving with the synchronized precision of people who'd rehearsed this breach 100 times. Not random attackers. A hit team. Marsh fired twice more. One attacker stumbled, caught the rounds in his vest, kept coming. She ejected the magazine with practiced speed, slammed in a fresh one, but they were already inside the room. One grabbed her wrist, twisted hard enough that Elena heard something crack. Marsh's pistol clattered to the floor. The second attacker moved toward Mitchell's bed. Elena didn't think, just reacted. She grabbed the IV pole, solid steel, weighted base, and swung it like a baseball bat. Connected with the attacker's knee with a wet crunch that felt like breaking ice. He went down hard, screaming through his mask. Elena reversed the swing, brought the pole down on his gun hand. Bones snapped. The weapon skittered away. Then someone hit her from behind. The impact drove her into the wall face first. Stars exploded across her vision. Strong hands grabbed her hair, yanked her head back, exposed her throat. She felt cold metal against her neck. A knife, tactically sharp, angled to cut carotid and windpipe in one efficient motion. Mitchell's restraints exploded. Not unlocked, not released. Exploded. Leather straps designed to hold a violent psychiatric patient ripped like paper. Mitchell came off that bed moving faster than physics should allow, his body a weapon before his feet hit the floor. He caught the knife wielder by the wrist, twisted 90 degrees past human range of motion, and the man's elbow bent backward with a sound like breaking kindling. The knife fell. Mitchell caught it midair without looking, reversed it, and drove it through the gap between the man's vest and helmet with surgical precision. The attacker dropped. Mitchell turned to the one Elena had injured. Still on the ground, reaching for a backup weapon. Mitchell stomped on his neck. Once. The crack was final. The remaining 2 attackers were dragging Marsh toward the door. She fought like a cornered animal, biting, kicking, clawing, but they had leverage and body mass. One of them raised his rifle toward Mitchell. Mitchell moved. Elena had seen combat speed before. Adrenaline-fueled soldiers running on fear and training. This was different. This was something manufactured. He crossed the room in 3 strides that looked like one continuous motion, grabbed the rifle barrel, and yanked the attacker forward into a headbutt that shattered the man's face shield. Blood sprayed. The man fell. The last attacker released Marsh, tried to run. Mitchell caught him at the doorway, one hand on his tactical vest, one hand on his belt, and physically threw him back into the room. The man hit the wall hard enough to crack drywall, slid down, didn't get up. Silence crashed back in. Heavy. Wrong. Mitchell stood in the center of the room, hospital gown torn and blood spattered, breathing hard but controlled. His eyes were sharp now, clear, nothing like the sedated compliance Elena had seen before. He looked at the bodies. 4 down, 3 dead, 1 unconscious. Then he looked at Marsh. You brought them right to me. That's not... Marsh coughed, blood on her lips. Broken rib, maybe punctured lung. Mitchell, stand down. I'm done standing down. His voice was flat, empty, the tone of someone who'd stopped feeling things. You told them where I was. How many more are coming? I didn't... Don't lie to me. Mitchell picked up one of the fallen rifles, checked the magazine with muscle memory, kept it pointed at the floor. This wasn't a random hit. They knew the room number. They knew the security layout. Someone told them. Elena pushed herself up from the wall. Her head throbbed where she'd been slammed, and her vision kept doubling at the edges. Blood ran warm from her split lip. She ignored it, focused on breathing, on staying conscious. Marsh tried to sit up, failed, pressed a hand to her ribs. Mitchell, listen to me. I'm done listening. He moved to the window, checked the parking lot 3 stories below. How many exits does this floor have? Elena answered before thinking. 2. Main stairwell and emergency stairs on the west wing. Mitchell looked at her. Really looked at her for the first time. His eyes were hazel under the fluorescent lights, shot through with something that might have been pain if he still remembered how to process it. You're the nurse. Elena Voss. You hit that guy with an IV pole. He was going to kill you. Why would you do that? It was a genuine question, not rhetorical. He actually didn't understand why a civilian would intervene in an assassination attempt. It's my job to keep patients alive, Elena said. Something almost like a smile touched Mitchell's mouth, gone before it fully formed. Your job's about to get a lot more complicated. Gunfire erupted in the hallway. Closer now. The remaining guards firing at something, someone. Shouts. Commands barked in clipped military cadence. Then screams. Then silence. Mitchell grabbed Marsh by her vest, hauled her upright despite her injuries. How many in the assault team? I don't know. He shook her, not hard, but enough. How many? 8, maybe 10. Mitchell, you need to... I need to survive. He released her, moved to the door, glanced into the hallway. Whatever he saw made his jaw tighten. They're professional, well-funded. This wasn't a containment breach. This was a sanctioned termination. That's not true. Then why aren't you surprised? Mitchell turned back to Marsh. You knew this was coming. You brought me here as bait. Marsh said nothing. The silence was confirmation enough. Elena's mind worked through the implications. Project Hephaestus. Enhanced operatives. 18 months of conditioning. A program that couldn't afford assets, questioning orders, or experiencing psychological breaks. Mitchell had become a liability. So they'd parked him in a civilian hospital, waited for whoever wanted him dead to make a move, then planned to clean up the mess afterward. Except the mess was cleaning itself up. Mitchell checked the hallway again. We need to move. They'll regroup and come back with heavier firepower. We? Elena stared at him. I'm not going anywhere. I'm a civilian employee. You signed an NDA 2 hours ago. You're involved whether you like it or not. He met her eyes. And those men will kill everyone on this floor to get to me, including you. So unless you want to die for a paycheck, you come with me. He had a point. A terrible, unavoidable point. Elena looked at Marsh. Can you walk? I can manage. That's not what I asked. Marsh tried to stand, made it halfway. Collapsed. Definitely broken ribs. Possibly internal bleeding. Moving her would risk puncturing something vital. We need to stabilize her before... No time. Mitchell was already moving, checking rooms, evaluating escape routes with the cold efficiency of someone running pure calculation. She stays. She dies. She comes. She might die. Better odds in motion. Elena wanted to argue, wanted to cite medical ethics, patient safety, basic human decency. But the gunfire was getting closer, and Mitchell was right about one thing. Staying here meant dying here. She grabbed a blanket from the bed, fashioned a makeshift sling to support Marsh's ribs. Can you hold this in place? Marsh nodded, teeth gritted against pain. Elena grabbed her medical bag from the hallway, the one she carried for emergencies, stocked with trauma supplies from her army days. Mitchell raised an eyebrow but didn't comment. He handed her one of the fallen pistols. You know how to use this? I qualified expert marksman in basic training. Good. He moved to the door. Stay behind me. Don't shoot unless I tell you to, and if I tell you to run, you run. Clear? Crystal. They moved into the hallway like ghosts. Mitchell led with the rifle up, clearing corners with textbook precision. Elena followed with Marsh between them, moving as fast as the injured woman could manage. The nurse's station was empty, papers scattered everywhere, coffee spilled and still steaming. Gloria was gone. No blood, no body. Just gone. The elevator dinged. Mitchell spun toward it, rifle aimed. Get back! The doors opened. Captain Holloway stumbled out, uniform torn, blood running from a gash above his eye. He saw Mitchell with the rifle and froze. Don't move, Mitchell said. Mitchell, I'm not. You're with them, or you're incompetent. Either way, you don't give me orders anymore. Holloway raised his hands slowly. I just watched 6 of my men get executed by a professional hit squad. They moved through this building like they owned it. Someone gave them access codes, floor plans, shift schedules. His eyes cut to Marsh. Someone high enough that my security clearance looks like kindergarten. You think I did this? Marsh's voice came out strangled with pain and fury. You think I authorized a hit on my own asset? I think someone did, and you're the only person here with authority to make that call. Mitchell kept the rifle trained on both of them. How many attackers are left? I counted 4 going up the west stairwell, Holloway said. But there could be more outside. They've got the building locked down tight. Then we go through them. You can't. Watch me. Mitchell moved toward the stairwell. You coming, Captain, or you want to explain to your superiors why you let a federal asset escape? Holloway looked at Elena. You don't have to do this. You're a civilian. This isn't your fight. They tried to kill me 30 seconds after I met them, Elena said. It became my fight. They took the west stairwell. Mitchell led, moving with predatory silence despite the hospital gown and bare feet. 2 floors down, they found the first body. One of Holloway's guards shot execution style in the back of the head. Mitchell checked the corpse without emotion, took the spare magazines from his vest, kept moving. The second floor landing had 3 more bodies. Not guards this time. Nurses. Day shift staff Elena recognized from passing in hallways. They'd been herded into a corner and shot. Professional kills. Quick, efficient, no hesitation. Elena's stomach turned to ice. This wasn't a targeted assassination. This was a massacre designed to leave no witnesses. They're sanitizing, Mitchell said quietly. Standard protocol. Kill the target. Kill everyone who saw the operation. Burn the evidence. These were civilians. These were casualties. His voice carried no emotion, just fact. The program doesn't leave loose ends. They reached the ground floor. Mitchell held up a fist. Military signal for stop. Listened. Footsteps in the main corridor. Multiple contacts. He signaled. 4 targets, coordinated movement, weapons ready. Mitchell looked at Elena. You ever been in a firefight? Afghanistan, 3 tours. Then you know the rules. Breathe. Aim. Squeeze. Don't think about what you're shooting at. Just eliminate the threat. I'm a medic. Not anymore. Right now, you're a combatant. Act like it or die like everyone else. He moved around the corner before she could respond. The first attacker never saw him coming. Mitchell closed the distance in 2 steps, drove the rifle stock into the man's throat, crushed his windpipe before he could scream. The man fell choking. The second attacker turned, raised his weapon. Mitchell shot him twice. Center mass, professional grouping. The man dropped. The third and fourth attackers opened fire. Bullets chewed through drywall, shattered the water fountain, punched through the ceiling tiles in a spray of acoustic foam. Mitchell dove behind a reception desk, returned fire with controlled bursts. 1 attacker went down. The other retreated toward the emergency exit. Elena saw the angle before Mitchell did. The retreating attacker was moving toward Holloway and Marsh, using the corridor junction for cover. In 3 seconds, he'd have a clear shot at both of them. She raised the pistol, breathed, aimed at center mass like they'd taught her at Fort Benning a lifetime ago. Squeezed the trigger. The recoil surprised her. She'd forgotten how heavy pistol kick felt. The round caught the attacker in the shoulder, spun him sideways. Not a kill shot, but it broke his aim, gave Mitchell time to close distance and finish it with a 3-round burst that painted the wall red. Silence flooded back. Temporary. Fragile. Mitchell checked the bodies, confirmed they were down. Exit's clear. We move now. They burst through the emergency door into cold night air. The parking lot stretched ahead, half full of civilian vehicles and government sedans. No visible threats. No apparent ambush. Too quiet. Mitchell grabbed Elena's arm, pulled her behind a concrete planter. They're waiting. Sniper probably. Maybe two. How do you... Glass exploded behind them. A car window disintegrated under sniper fire. Then another. The rounds were coming from the parking structure across the street. Elevated position, clear sight lines, professional patience. Mitchell scanned the lot. We need transportation, something armored. Nothing here is armored. The ambulances. He pointed to the emergency bay 50 yards away. Two ambulances parked side by side, lights off, doors closed. They've got reinforced frames and bullet-resistant windshields. Not perfect, but better than running across open ground. That's 50 yards of zero cover. I know. Mitchell looked at Holloway. You still remember how to provide suppressing fire, Captain? Holloway checked his pistol. Half a magazine left. I can try. Don't try. Do it. Mitchell turned to Elena. When I move, you count to 3 and follow. Don't stop. Don't look back. Just run. What about Marsh? She slows us down. She dies here. Move or make peace with it. Elena looked at Marsh. The woman's face was gray with pain and blood loss. Moving her was dangerous. Leaving her was fatal. I'll carry her, Elena said. You can't. I evacuated 12 wounded soldiers through enemy fire with a broken arm. I can carry one DOD official 50 yards. She got Marsh into a fireman's carry, ignored the woman's grunt of pain. On your mark. Mitchell almost smiled again. You're either very brave or very stupid. I'm a trauma medic. We're all a little stupid. He moved. The sniper fired immediately. Rounds sparked off concrete, chewed through the planter, punched holes in the cars around them. Holloway returned fire blindly, just laying down volume to break the sniper's concentration. Mitchell ran in a combat crouch, weapon up, firing at the parking structure to keep the sniper's head down. Elena counted to 3 and ran. 50 yards had never felt longer. Each step was a prayer, each breath a gamble. Marsh's weight pressed into her shoulders, compressed her spine, made every movement agony. The sniper's rounds tracked them like a predator chasing wounded prey. One shot passed close enough that Elena felt the air displacement against her cheek. She didn't stop. 30 yards. 20. Mitchell reached the ambulance, ripped the driver's door open, checked inside. Clear. He turned, provided covering fire while Elena closed the distance. 10 yards. A round hit the ground 6 inches from her foot. Concrete fragments peppered her leg. She stumbled, caught herself, kept moving. 5 yards. Mitchell grabbed Marsh, pulled her into the back of the ambulance. Elena dove in after, landed hard on the metal floor. Holloway came last, sliding into the passenger seat as Mitchell fired the ignition. No keys. Hotwire it, Holloway shouted. I'm working on it. A round punched through the windshield. Safety glass spiderwebbed, but held. Mitchell ripped open the steering column, pulled wires with hands that didn't shake despite the bullets. Touched 2 wires together. The engine coughed, died. Another round. Then another. The windshield was fracturing, close to total failure. Mitchell tried again. The engine caught, roared to life. He slammed the ambulance into gear and floored it. They rocketed out of the emergency bay doing 40 miles per hour, tires screaming on wet pavement. More sniper rounds tracked them, punching through the roof, shattering the rear windows. Elena kept her head down, pressed herself over Marsh's body, used her own mass as a shield. They hit the street hard enough to bottom out the suspension. Mitchell didn't slow down. Just accelerated through the intersection, blew through a red light, took a corner at 60 that made the ambulance tilt on 2 wheels. Elena waited for the sound of pursuit. Sirens. Helicopters. Something. Nothing came. They drove in silence for 3 minutes. 4. Mitchell took random turns, doubled back twice, checked mirrors constantly. Standard evasion protocol. Finally, he pulled into an abandoned industrial lot and killed the engine. Everyone just breathed for a moment. Marsh coughed wetly, blood on her lips. Definitely internal bleeding now. Elena dug through the ambulance's medical supplies, found IV equipment, started a line. O negative blood. Morphine for the pain. Marsh's eyes fluttered. Status? Mitchell asked. Broken ribs, probably punctured lung, possible internal hemorrhage. She needs a trauma surgeon in the next 2 hours or she won't make it. Nearest hospital? Every hospital in this city will be locked down by now. If we show up with her, we're dead. Holloway was staring at his hands. They were shaking. Combat shock, probably. This was supposed to be a simple protective custody operation. Guard a classified asset until transport arrived. That's what they told me. They lied, Mitchell said. My men are dead. Civilians are dead. The entire third floor. Holloway's voice broke. What the hell is Project Hephaestus? Mitchell looked at him for a long moment. Then he pulled off what remained of his hospital gown, revealing a body covered in surgical scars and chemical burn marks from pharmaceutical injection sites. It's what happens when the government decides soldiers aren't efficient enough. They wanted operators who didn't hesitate, didn't question, didn't break under pressure. So they built us. Built you? Neurological modification, chemical conditioning, psychological restructuring, 18 months of turning humans into weapons. He touched the scars on his temples. They wire your brain to suppress fear response, enhance threat assessment, override moral inhibition, feed you compounds that keep your adrenal system in permanent overdrive. Then they break you psychologically until you stop thinking and just execute orders. That's insane. That's classified. Mitchell's voice was flat. Dead. And it works. Until it doesn't. Until someone wakes up in the middle of a mission and realizes they just killed 6 people without asking why. Elena cleaned her split lip with alcohol that burned like fire. That's when you refused orders. That's when I looked at the target I was supposed to terminate and realized it was a journalist. American citizen. Guilty of asking questions about black budget programs. Mitchell's eyes were empty. They wanted me to make it look like an accident. I said no. 2 days later, I'm in psychiatric lockdown having violent episodes that coincidentally required heavy sedation. They were going to recondition you, Elena said. They were going to erase me. Everything that makes me Aaron Mitchell gets chemically burned out, replaced with whatever programming serves the mission. He looked at Marsh. Isn't that right, Doctor? Marsh's eyes were closed, either unconscious or pretending to be. Holloway was still processing. If what you're saying is true, this goes all the way to Pentagon oversight, Joint Chiefs, maybe higher. Now you're catching on. We need to go public, expose the program. With what evidence? You think anyone walks out of that hospital alive? They'll sanitize the scene, classify the casualties as a terrorist attack, and bury the truth under national security. Mitchell checked the rifle magazine. Almost empty. The only way we survive is if we disappear. New identities, different country. Burn everything we were and start over. I'm not running, Elena said. Both men looked at her. I didn't survive Kandahar to spend the rest of my life hiding from my own government. She met Mitchell's eyes. You said they can't afford loose ends. That works both ways. They can't afford public exposure either, which means we have leverage if we're smart about it. You want to negotiate with people who just murdered 20 civilians? I want to make them pay for it. Elena's voice was cold now. Combat cold. The tone she'd used when triaging soldiers who wouldn't survive and deciding who got morphine for the pain versus who got morphine to die easier. You know the program's structure. I'm guessing Marsh knows the funding sources and operational oversight. Holloway has the military contacts to verify claims. Between the 3 of us, we can build a case that destroys everyone involved. And get killed trying, Mitchell said. Probably, but at least we'd die doing something that matters instead of running like criminals. Silence filled the ambulance, heavy with calculation and fear and the kind of desperate hope that gets people killed. Then Holloway spoke. I know someone. Army CID investigator who specializes in Black Ops oversight. She's clean. If anyone can take this up the chain without getting us all disappeared, it's her. CID won't touch this, Mitchell said. Too classified. She will if we give her proof. Holloway looked at Marsh. Doctor, you still conscious? Marsh's eyes opened. Barely. Unfortunately. You have documentation on Project Hephaestus? Names, funding, operational records? Encrypted files, biometric access only. Where? DoD secure server. I'd need terminal access in about 20 minutes without interruption. She coughed blood. Neither of which we currently have. Elena checked Marsh's vitals. Blood pressure dropping, respiratory rate climbing. The internal bleeding was getting worse. She's got maybe 90 minutes before she crashes. After that, no amount of hacking saves her. Mitchell stared at the ceiling of the ambulance, calculating odds, probably, running tactical scenarios, looking for the solution that didn't end with everyone dead. Finally, he spoke. I know a place. Off-grid medical clinic about 40 minutes from here. They ask questions, but they don't report answers. We can stabilize Marsh there, access a secure terminal, and contact your CID investigator. He looked at each of them in turn. But if we do this, we're committed. No backing out. No second chances. We expose the program or we die trying. I'm in, Holloway said. Elena thought about the nurses on the second floor, about Gloria who'd been so nervous, about 12 soldiers in Afghanistan who'd trusted her to keep them alive, and how she'd failed half of them. I'm in, she said. Mitchell nodded once, started the ambulance, pulled back onto the road with the headlights off, navigating by streetlight and memory. They drove through empty industrial zones and shuttered strip malls, through neighborhoods where people slept without knowing that 20 miles away, a hospital had become a slaughterhouse. The city passed by like a dream, ordinary and oblivious. Elena's phone buzzed. She checked it. 3 missed calls from the hospital administrator. 2 texts from Marcus asking if she was okay. 1 news alert. Mass casualty event at Cedar Gate Medical Center. Details developing. She turned off the phone, removed the battery, threw both out the window. They were 20 minutes from the clinic when Marsh stopped breathing. Elena was over the seat before Mitchell could brake. Her hands found Marsh's throat, felt for a pulse that wasn't there. No chest rise, no breath sounds. The woman's lips were already turning blue. Pull over, Elena said. Mitchell didn't slow down. We're 15 minutes from the clinic. She'll be dead in 3. Pull over now. He jerked the ambulance onto the shoulder, gravel spraying. Elena was already ripping open Marsh's shirt, positioning her hands for compressions. 2 inches above the xiphoid process. 30 compressions per cycle, hard enough to crack ribs that were already broken. 1, 2, 3. She counted in her head, let muscle memory take over. Holloway scrambled into the back, staring uselessly. Bag her, Elena snapped. I don't... Bag valve mask. Blue bag. Overhead compartment. Now. He found it, fumbled with the straps. Elena kept compressions going, felt Marsh's sternum flex under her palms, broken ribs grinding against each other. Couldn't be helped. Dead people didn't worry about pain. 30 compressions. She tilted Marsh's head back, checked the airway. Clear. Holloway positioned the mask wrong. Elena adjusted it one-handed, told him to squeeze the bag twice. He did. Marsh's chest rose artificially. Back to compressions. 1, 2, 3. How long can you keep this up? Mitchell asked. As long as it takes. That's not an answer. Elena ignored him. 30 compressions, 2 breaths, check for pulse. Nothing. Repeat. Her shoulders were already burning. Adrenaline would carry her another few minutes. After that, pure will. 15 compressions in, Marsh convulsed, coughed, vomited blood and bile across Elena's hands. Elena rolled her into recovery position, cleared the airway, checked breathing, shallow and labored, but present. She's back, Elena said. Holloway looked like he might throw up. Jesus Christ, yo! Keep the bag ready. If she crashes again, you're doing compressions while I manage the airway. Elena checked Marsh's pupils. Sluggish response, likely hypoxic brain injury from the arrest, but no way to assess severity without imaging. Drive, fast. Mitchell drove. The clinic materialized out of urban decay like a mirage. Single-story building wedged between a closed auto shop and a liquor store with bars on the windows. No sign, no lights except a single bulb over a steel door. Mitchell killed the engine in the alley behind the building, knocked 3 times, paused, knocked twice more. The door opened. A woman in her 60s, gray hair in a bun, surgical scrubs that had seen better decades, looked them over with eyes that had stopped being surprised by anything years ago. Aaron Mitchell, didn't expect to see you again. Things got complicated, Rosa. Rosa's gaze moved to Marsh's pale face, the blood-soaked improvised bandages, the IV line Elena was holding above her head like a flag of surrender. She gonna die in my clinic? Not if you help. I don't do federal cases. She's not federal. She's a mistake we're trying to fix. Mitchell met her eyes. Please. Rosa stepped aside. Bring her to the back room, and whatever comes through that door after you better be worth the heat. They carried Marsh through a narrow hallway that smelled like antiseptic and old coffee. The back room was part operating theater, part storage closet, outdated equipment that still worked, medications in unlabeled bottles, a surgical table that had probably seen use in actual hospitals before being decommissioned. Rosa scrubbed in without being asked. What am I looking at, Tim? Blunt force trauma to the chest, Elena said. Multiple fractured ribs, suspected pneumothorax, possible hemothorax. She arrested once already. Respiratory rates climbing, blood pressures in the toilet. Rosa listened to Marsh's chest with a stethoscope. Definitely pneumo. Probably hemo, too. She needs a chest tube and about 3 units of blood. She looked at Elena. You done this before? Field surgery in Afghanistan. Nothing this clean. Clean's relative. Rosa pulled supplies from cabinets with practiced efficiency. You assist, I'll cut. Your friend with the shakes can manage the anesthesia. Holloway looked panicked. I'm not qualified. You squeeze the bag when I tell you and don't let her die. That's the only qualification. Rosa positioned Marsh on the table, began prepping the insertion site. This is going to hurt her even unconscious. Hold her still. Elena positioned herself at Marsh's shoulders. Mitchell took her legs. Rosa made the incision with hands that didn't shake despite her age. Blood welled up, dark and venous. She worked the tube between ribs with controlled force, met resistance, pushed through. Marsh's body jerked. Elena held her down. The tube seated. Rosa connected it to a drainage system. Blood and fluid poured out in a rush that made Holloway turn away. That's the hemothorax, Rosa said. Pneumo's still there. Breathing's going to be rough for a while. She sutured the tube in place with quick, efficient stitches. She'll live. Might wish she hadn't, but she'll live. Elena sagged against the wall. Her hands were shaking now, adrenaline crash hitting hard. Rosa handed her a bottle of water and 2 white pills. Propranolol takes the edge off. Elena swallowed them dry. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. Whatever you people are running from tends to catch up. Rosa turned to Mitchell. You said things got complicated. How complicated? Cedar Gate Medical Center, classified military asset, professional hit team, about 20 civilians dead. Rosa's expression didn't change. That's real complicated. We need a secure terminal, access to DoD servers, and a way to contact Army CID without broadcasting our location to every federal agency in the state. Asking a lot. I know. Rosa studied him for a long moment. Then she pulled a key from around her neck, unlocked a cabinet Elena hadn't noticed before. Inside was equipment that didn't match the rest of the clinic. Military-grade communications gear, encrypted laptops, hardware Elena recognized from intelligence briefings. You ran black ops out of a medical clinic, Elena said quietly. I ran a lot of things before I got smart and retired. Rosa powered up one of the laptops. This terminal's got routing through 4 proxy servers and a VPN that changes location every 30 seconds. Should give you about 20 minutes before someone traces the signal. She looked at Mitchell. After that, you're ghosts or you're dead. Mitchell sat down at the terminal, fingers moving across the keyboard with the speed of someone who'd done this before. Elena watched code scroll past, recognized some of it from her own intelligence training. He was bypassing authentication protocols, creating backdoor access, moving through DoD servers like he'd built them himself. Marsh said she needed biometric access, Elena said. She does. For her files. Mitchell pulled up a directory tree. But the program has oversight. People who monitor assets, track operational efficiency, document pharmaceutical protocols. I'm not looking for her files. I'm looking for theirs. He found something, pulled it up. Elena moved closer to see. Project Hephaestus. Full operational documentation, subject recruitment, conditioning protocols, chemical formulations, mission logs, and names. So many names. Military brass, Pentagon oversight, defense contractors, pharmaceutical companies, politicians on appropriations committees. The program wasn't some rogue operation. It was sanctioned at the highest levels, funded through black budgets, protected by people who'd never face consequences. Download everything, Holloway said. He was on his phone typing rapidly. I'm contacting my CID investigator now. Major Sarah Reeves. If anyone can move this up the chain without getting us killed, it's her. Where is she based? Fort Bragg. She can be here in 6 hours if I tell her it's urgent. Tell her it's apocalyptic. Elena was scrolling through the subject files. 15 operatives total. 12 dead or missing. 2 reconditioned after psychological breaks. 1, Aaron Mitchell, classified as terminated. They're going to know we accessed these files. They already know, Mitchell said. Alarms started going off the second I bypassed the first authentication. We've got maybe 10 minutes before they triangulate the signal, another 5 before they dispatch a response team. Then we work fast. Elena photographed screen after screen with her phone. Names, dates, operational summaries, everything that could serve as evidence. Holloway, how long until your investigator confirms? She's responding now, says she needs proof before she moves. Hard evidence, not just files that could be fabricated. Tell her to check the morgue at Cedar Gate Medical Center. 20 bodies is pretty hard evidence. Holloway typed, waited. His phone buzzed. She's pulling the incident reports now. Says the official story is terrorist attack. No mention of federal assets or classified operations. Of course not. Mitchell downloaded files to an encrypted drive. They'll bury this so deep it'll take years to uncover. If we want justice, we need to force their hand, make it public before they can sanitize the narrative. Elena thought about the nurses on the second floor, about Gloria, about soldiers she'd failed to save in Kandahar because there'd been too many wounded and not enough time. We need media, someone who can't be silenced. Every major outlet will sit on this until they verify sources, Holloway said. By then we'll be dead. Not major outlets, independent journalists, people who've already been burned by trusting the government. Elena was thinking out loud now, working through options. There's a reporter in Seattle, Hannah Vickers. Did a piece on black site interrogations that nearly got her arrested. She'd run this story. You know her? I testified for one of her investigations, confidentially. She protected my identity even when the DOD came after her with subpoenas. Elena met Mitchell's eyes. She'll run this if we can get her the evidence. Mitchell checked his watch. 7 minutes until they trace us. You got a number? Elena recited it from memory. Holloway dialed on a burner phone Rosa provided. 3 rings, 4. Then a voice, sharp with journalist suspicion. Who is this? Someone who needs your help exposing a war crime, Elena said. Silence. Then, I'm listening. Elena laid it out in 2 minutes. Project Hephaestus, enhanced operatives, psychological conditioning, the massacre at Cedar Gate, the cover-up already in motion. Vickers didn't interrupt, just listened with the focused intensity of someone who'd spent a career chasing stories that destroyed her sources. You have proof? Vickers asked. Files, documentation, photographic evidence, names that go to the top of the food chain. Send it. If we send it now, they'll intercept the transmission. We need a dead drop, somewhere you can access without being traced. Vickers thought for a moment. There's a storage facility on the north side, Unit 247. I keep backup drives there for sources who need air-gapped security. Leave the evidence there. I'll pick it up in 3 hours. 3 hours might be too late. 3 hours is how long it takes me to verify you're not setting me up. I've had people try to destroy my career with fabricated evidence before. You want me to run this story? You give me time to confirm it's real. Elena looked at Mitchell. He nodded. They didn't have better options. We'll be there in 90 minutes, Elena said. She hung up. Mitchell was already burning the files to 3 separate encrypted drives. Holloway was coordinating with Major Reeves, setting up a secure meeting point once they had the journalist confirmation. Rosa watched them all with the detached assessment of someone who'd seen this play before. You're making a lot of noise for people trying to stay alive, Rosa said. We're past staying alive, Elena said. Now we're just trying to make it count. Marsh coughed. Her eyes opened, unfocused and pain-glazed. Mitchell. He moved to her side. Don't talk. You've got a chest tube and about 50 reasons to stay still. The files, you accessed them. Everything. Operational documentation, funding trails, names. We're burning it all down. Marsh's hand found his wrist, gripped with surprising strength. They'll kill you, all of you. This program has protection you can't imagine. Then they better imagine harder. Mitchell pulled his wrist free. You built this thing. You turned soldiers into weapons and threw them away when they broke. You don't get to warn me about consequences. I was following orders. So were the people who killed those nurses. Elena's voice was cold, flat. You don't get to hide behind authority. Not anymore. Marsh closed her eyes. Tears leaked from the corners. I didn't think it would go this far. It always goes this far, Mitchell said. That's what people like you never understand. You build the weapon, you give it orders, and you act surprised when it does exactly what you designed it to do. A phone rang. Not Holloway's burner, not Elena's disabled cell. The encrypted phone on Rosa's desk that shouldn't have rung at all. Rosa answered, listened. Her face went carefully blank. She held the phone out to Mitchell. It's for you. Mitchell took it slowly. Who is this? The voice on the other end was cultured, male, carried the authority of someone used to making decisions that altered lives. Mr. Mitchell, I'm General William Carver. I believe you have something that belongs to me. Elena felt ice crystallize in her chest. She knew that name. Everyone who'd served in the Middle East knew that name. Carver had overseen black operations for a decade. The kind of man who appeared in classified briefings and Senate hearings that immediately went into executive session. Mitchell's face showed nothing. I don't work for you anymore, General. You never stopped working for me. You're a federal asset. That doesn't end because you had a psychological episode. Carver's tone was almost paternal. Reasonable. You're experiencing withdrawal from the conditioning pharmaceuticals. It's affecting your judgment. We can help you, get you the treatment you need. The treatment where you erase everything I am? The treatment where you become operational again, useful. You were built for a purpose, Mitchell. Fighting it only causes pain. Mitchell's jaw tightened. I'm done being built. Then you're done, period. Carver's voice hardened. You've accessed classified documentation, involved civilians in a federal security matter, killed 2 security contractors performing their lawful duties. You're looking at treason charges that carry capital punishment. Self-defense isn't treason. That's not how the investigation will conclude. A pause. But it doesn't have to go that way. Return the files. Surrender yourself for reconditioning, and I'll ensure the civilians you've involved are charged with minor offenses. Probation at worst. Elena shook her head violently. Mitchell ignored her. And if I refuse, then I classify all of you as hostile combatants and resolve this with a tactical response team. They're already en route to your current location. You have approximately 4 minutes to decide. Mitchell checked his watch. Then he looked at Elena, at Holloway, at Rosa, seeing them clearly for the first time, not as assets or liabilities, as people who'd chosen to stand when running was safer. I've got a counteroffer, General. I'm listening. We've already transmitted the Project Hephaestus files to multiple locations. Dead drops you can't trace, journalists you can't silence, federal investigators you don't control. You come after us, it all goes public. Congressional hearings, criminal prosecutions, the kind of exposure that ends careers and starts prison sentences. Silence on the line. When Carver spoke again, his voice was different, colder, emptied of pretense. You're bluffing. Test me. Even if you transmitted the files, no journalist will run an unverified story about a classified program. No investigator will touch evidence obtained illegally. No committee will hold hearings based on stolen documentation. Carver's confidence was returning. You have nothing but data you can't use and a death sentence you can't escape. Mitchell smiled without humor. Then I guess you better send your team, because I'm not coming in. He hung up. Rosa was already moving, pulling weapons from hidden compartments. They'll be here in 3 minutes, maybe less if they were staging nearby. How many? Holloway asked. Carver doesn't half measure. I'd bet on a full tactical team, 8 to 12 operators, professional, lethal. Rosa handed Elena a shotgun. You know how to use this? Point and shoot. That's the spirit. Rosa armed herself with a pistol that looked older than she was. There's a tunnel in the basement, connects to the liquor store next door, gets you to the street without going through the front. Mitchell checked the rifle he'd taken from Cedar Gate. Almost empty. Rosa handed him a fresh magazine. What about you? I'll slow them down, buy you time. They'll kill you. I'm 73 years old with arthritis and a bad heart. I've had a good run. Rosa's eyes were clear, certain. You kids are just starting to fight back. Don't waste it dying in my clinic. Elena wanted to argue, wanted to say there had to be another way, but she'd been in enough firefights to know when someone was making their final stand. Thank you, Elena said quietly. Rosa nodded. Tunnels behind the furnace. Code is 1968. Go. They went. Down narrow stairs into a basement that smelled like mold and old concrete. Mitchell found the furnace, the hidden panel behind it, punched in the code. The panel swung open, revealing darkness and the smell of dirt. Behind them, upstairs, they heard the first explosion. The front door blowing, standard breaching charge. Then footsteps, multiple contacts, moving fast. Rosa's voice, surprisingly strong. You boys lost. Gunfire answered, sustained burst that made the building shake. Mitchell pushed Elena into the tunnel. Move. Now. They crawled through darkness on hands and knees. The tunnel was barely 3 feet high, rough concrete scraping skin. Elena heard Holloway breathing hard behind her, panic starting to take hold. She kept moving. One hand forward, one knee up. Repeat. Like basic training. Like the obstacle courses where quitting meant starting over. The gunfire upstairs stopped. Silence was worse than noise. Silence meant Rosa was down. Silence meant the team was searching the building. The tunnel ended in another panel. Mitchell worked the release, pushed through into the liquor store's basement. Abandoned. Dark. They climbed stairs to the main floor, moved between empty shelves toward the rear exit. Outside, the alley. 2 blocks to where they'd left the ambulance. They made it 1 block. The tactical team came around the corner like a machine. 6 operators in full gear, weapons up, moving in coordinated formation. Professional, efficient, built for this. Mitchell fired first, dropped the lead operator with a headshot that was more luck than skill. The others scattered, returned fire. Elena dove behind a dumpster, came up shooting the shotgun. The blast caught an operator center mass, threw him backward into his teammate. Holloway fired his pistol wildly. No accuracy, just noise. 1 round ricocheted off a fire escape. Another punch through a window. Mitchell advanced while firing. Controlled bursts, professional marksmanship. He dropped another operator, then another, moving like the weapon they'd built him to be. An operator flanked left, came around the dumpster where Elena was hiding. She saw him too late. Saw his rifle coming up. Saw her death in his eyes. Holloway shot him. 3 rounds, 2 missed. 1 caught the operator in the neck. Blood sprayed. The man fell choking. Elena grabbed his rifle, rolled out from behind the dumpster, fired at the remaining operators. They were retreating now. Tactical withdrawal. 3 dead, 2 wounded, 1 still combat effective. Not good odds. Mitchell pressed the advantage. Moved forward, fired twice more. The last operator went down. Silence flooded back. Temporary. Fragile. They ran to the ambulance. Mitchell drove. Elena reloaded weapons with shaking hands. Holloway stared at the blood on his sleeve where he'd been hit and hadn't noticed. Superficial wound. He'd live. Where are we going? Holloway asked. Storage facility, north side. We drop the evidence and disappear. Mitchell took a corner too fast. The ambulance tilted, righted itself. After that, we split up. Harder to track 3 targets than 1. I'm not splitting up, Elena said. You don't have a choice. I didn't have a choice when they tried to kill me at the hospital. I didn't have a choice when they murdered Rosa. I'm done letting other people make my choices. She met his eyes in the rearview mirror. We finish this together, or we don't finish it at all. Mitchell drove in silence for 3 blocks. Then he nodded. Together. They reached the storage facility 40 minutes later. Industrial area. Rows of identical units. No security except cameras that probably didn't work. Mitchell parked 2 blocks away. They approached on foot, watching for surveillance. Unit 247 was in the back row, standard padlock. Elena picked it in 15 seconds. Another skill from her military days they'd never expected her to use. Inside was empty except for a metal case bolted to the floor. Mitchell placed the encrypted drives inside, added a handwritten note with names and dates, locked it. They left without looking back. Back in the ambulance, Elena's phone buzzed. She'd replaced the battery against her better judgment. 1 message, from a number she didn't recognize. Files received, story runs in 6 hours. Stay alive that long. HV. Vickers. Somehow she'd already accessed the storage unit. already verified the evidence, already committed to running the story that would burn Project Hephaestus to the ground. 6 hours. They just had to survive 6 hours. Holloway's phone rang. Major Reeves, he put it on speaker. Captain Holloway, I need you to listen carefully. Her voice was tight, controlled. I verified your claims through official channels. Project Hephaestus is real. The oversight is real. And the people running it just issued termination orders for everyone involved in tonight's breach. We expected that. You don't understand. Not just you three. Everyone. Every person who treated the asset at Cedar Gate. Every guard who saw him. Every administrator who processed paperwork. They're sanitizing witnesses on a scale I've never seen. Elena felt the floor drop out from under her. How many? 47 people on the target list. They're moving on all of them simultaneously. Mass casualty event disguised as a gas leak. They're planning to blow Cedar Gate Medical Center in 2 hours. The building still had patients, staff, people who had no idea they were about to die for the crime of working the wrong shift on the wrong night. Can you stop it? Mitchell asked. Not in 2 hours. Not without proof that justifies intervention. Reeves paused. I need you to get me a living witness. Someone from inside the program who'll testify publicly. Without that, everything you've sent me is just stolen data. They all looked at Marsh, still unconscious in the back, still breathing through the chest tube, still the only living connection to Project Hephaestus who could corroborate the files. We'll get her to you, Elena said. Where? Reeves gave coordinates. A secure location 40 miles north. Military police would be waiting. Protection in exchange for testimony. Mitchell checked fuel. We can make it. Barely. They drove through empty streets. Dawn was coming. The sky lightening from black to gray to the pale blue of morning. Elena watched the city wake up. People starting their days, going to work, drinking coffee, living ordinary lives. In 2 hours, 47 of them would be dead, unless they stopped it. Marsh woke up screaming. The scream tore through the ambulance like a blade. Marsh thrashed against the stretcher, eyes wide and unseeing, hands clawing at the chest tube. Mitchell nearly lost control of the wheel. Elena lunged over the seat, caught Marsh's wrists before she could rip the tube out. Hold her! Elena barked at Holloway. He grabbed Marsh's shoulders. She was stronger than she looked, panic giving her leverage physics shouldn't allow. Elena checked the drainage bag. Still flowing, no air bubbles. The pneumothorax wasn't recollapsing. This was psychological. Dr. Marsh, Rebecca, look at me. Elena forced eye contact. You're safe. The tube's working. Breathe. Marsh's eyes focused slowly. Recognition filtered through pain and terror. They're coming. They know where we are. We're moving. They can't track. You don't understand. Marsh's voice was raw, desperate. The conditioning pharmaceuticals, they're not just chemical. There's a tracking element, synthetic nanoparticles that metabolize slowly. Every Phase 3 asset has them. Her eyes cut to Mitchell, including him. Mitchell's hands tightened on the wheel. That's not possible. I've been off the compounds for 6 weeks. The particles stay active for 90 days. They emit a signal that's undetectable to civilian scanners, but military satellites can track it within a 10-meter radius. Marsh coughed wetly. They've known where you are since you left Cedar Gate. They've been following you the entire time. Elena felt the world tilt sideways. Every move they'd made, every location they'd fled to, Rosa's clinic, the storage facility, all of it tracked, all of it feeding intelligence to Carver's team. Why didn't they just kill us? Holloway asked. Because they wanted to see where you'd go, who you'd contact, what evidence you'd try to hide. Marsh's laugh was bitter, broken. You think you've been running? You've been leading them straight to everyone involved. Mitchell pulled the ambulance over, stepped out into the pre-dawn gray. Elena followed, left Holloway with Marsh, found Mitchell leaning against the side of the vehicle, jaw working like he was chewing glass. I led them to Rosa, he said quietly. You didn't know. I should have known. I was in the program. I knew the capabilities. I just wanted to believe I could walk away clean. He looked at his hands like they belonged to someone else. Everything I touch dies. Everyone who helps me ends up dead. Elena grabbed his shoulder, forced him to look at her. Rosa knew the risks. She chose to help anyway.
Don't disrespect her choice by turning it into your guilt.
We're broadcasting our location right now. Every second we stand here, we're painting a target. Then we use it. Elena's mind was already working through tactical options. They think they're tracking us. What if we give them exactly what they expect? Mitchell's eyes sharpened. You want to lead them into a trap.
I want to give them a target they can't resist. She pulled out her phone, checked the time. 90 minutes until Cedar Gate Medical Center exploded. 40 minutes to Reeves' location. We get Marsh to Major Reeves, she testifies. Then we make sure Carver can't bury it. How? By making him come for us in front of witnesses. They climbed back into the ambulance. Elena explained the plan. Holloway looked skeptical. Marsh looked resigned. Mitchell just nodded once and drove.
They reached the coordinates Reeves had provided with 30 minutes to spare. Military checkpoint on the outskirts of Fort Bragg. Concrete barriers. Armed MPs. Enough firepower that even Carver would think twice about a direct assault. Major Sarah Reeves met them at the gate. Early 40s, dark skin, eyes that assessed threats with the precision of a surgeon identifying tumors. She looked at each of them in turn, lingered on Marsh's chest tube and pale face. Captain Holloway, I need your weapon and a full debrief in 5 minutes. Her voice carried the authority of someone who'd spent a career making hard calls. You must be Mitchell, and you're the nurse who decided to start a war. Elena Voss. I know who you are. Silver Star recipient, combat medic, honorably discharged with full benefits and a clean record. Reeves gestured to the MPs. Get Dr. Marsh to the medical tent. Keep her under guard. If she stops breathing, you keep her breathing. She's the only witness that can make this stick. They carried Marsh away on a stretcher. She didn't resist, didn't speak, just stared at the sky with eyes that had stopped caring about outcomes. Reeves turned back to Elena and Mitchell. I've got 60 minutes to build a case that stops a building from exploding and exposes a black ops program that's been running for 3 years. Tell me everything. Elena laid it out, fast, precise. No embellishment. Project Hephaestus, the conditioning, the massacre at Cedar Gate, the files they'd transmitted to Hannah Vickers, the tracking elements in Mitchell's bloodstream, Carver's termination orders. Reeves listened without interrupting, took notes on a tablet with quick, efficient gestures. When Elena finished, Reeves looked at Mitchell. The tracking particles. How accurate is the signal? 10-meter radius, according to Marsh. And they've been following you this entire time. Yes. Reeves made a call. Spoke in clipped military shorthand. Coordinates. Asset containment. Federal override authorization. She hung up, looked at them both. I'm pulling satellite data from the past 6 hours. If they've been tracking you, there'll be a pattern. Vehicles staging near your locations. Communications traffic. Something we can use to prove surveillance. She checked her watch. But even if I proved they were tracking you, that doesn't stop the demolition at Cedar Gate. What about evacuation? Holloway asked. Call in a bomb threat. Clear the building. On what authority? A nurse and a rogue operative who stole classified files. The hospital administration won't evacuate based on that. And if I go through official channels, Carver will know we're onto him. He'll accelerate the timeline. Elena thought about the patients on the 3rd floor. Mrs. Brennan. Mr. Okoye. People who'd trusted the hospital to keep them safe. How many people are in that building right now? Reeves checked her tablet. According to shift schedules, approximately 80 staff and 60 patients, plus visitors, support personnel, security, call it 200 people total. 200 lives. 200 casualties that would be written off as a tragic accident, gas leak, structural failure, anything but the truth. Mitchell spoke quietly. What if we give them a better target? Reeves looked at him. Explain. They're tracking me. They want me dead. But more than that, they want this quiet. No witnesses, no evidence, no exposure. He met Elena's eyes. What if we make it impossible to keep quiet? You want to broadcast your location, Reeves said slowly. I want to broadcast everything. Live stream. Full disclosure. Every file we pulled. Every name in the program. Put it out in real time where Carver can't shut it down or spin the narrative. They'll kill you before you finish the first sentence. Probably. But if Elena's right about using the tracking against them, they'll come hard and fast. Professional hit team, military hardware, the kind of assault that's impossible to explain away as random violence. Mitchell's voice was steady, certain,
You can't cover up a massacre if the massacre is being broadcast to 10,000 people. Reeves was quiet for a long moment. Then she made another call, this time longer. She walked away, spoke in low tones Elena couldn't hear, came back 5 minutes later with an expression that had hardened from skeptical to committed. I can give you a secure location with camera equipment and satellite uplink, multiple redundant connections that can't be cut simultaneously, and I can make sure the right people are watching when it goes live. She looked at Mitchell. But once you start broadcasting, you're committed. No walking it back. No second chances. You die on camera in front of the world. I've been dead since they put me in that program, Mitchell said. At least this way it means something. Reeves nodded, gave orders to the MPs. They moved with the coordinated efficiency of people executing a plan they'd rehearsed for years. Within 10 minutes, they'd set up a command tent with military-grade communications equipment, cameras, microphones, satellite uplink with enough bandwidth to stream high-definition video to multiple platforms simultaneously. Hannah Vickers called Elena's phone. I'm seeing activity. Federal servers trying to scrub data. Someone's panicking. How long until your story runs? 30 minutes. I've got verification from 3 independent sources. This is real. This is happening. A pause. You know they'll come after you. We're counting on it. Stay alive, Nurse Voss. I'd like to interview you when this is over. Elena almost laughed. When this is over, like there was an after. Like they weren't about to paint targets on their backs and wait for professional killers to start shooting. Holloway was arguing with Reeves outside the tent. Elena caught fragments. Duty, loyalty, the chain of command. Reeves shut him down with 2 sentences. Your men are dead because someone in that chain gave illegal orders. You want to honor them? Make sure their deaths expose the rot. Holloway went quiet, nodded once, came back into the tent looking 10 years older. Mitchell was setting up the camera, testing angles, making sure the framing captured his face clearly. Elena helped him adjust the lighting. Her hands were steady now. The adrenaline crash had passed. She was running on something deeper, something that had carried her through firefights and triage decisions and the kind of choices that haunted you forever. You don't have to stay, Mitchell said quietly. This is my fight. It stopped being just your fight when they killed those nurses. Elena met his eyes. Besides, you need someone to keep you from bleeding out on camera. Bad optics. He almost smiled. Fair point. Reeves came in with the tablet. Satellite data confirms 3 vehicles have been shadowing your movements, black SUVs, government plates. They've been maintaining a 2-block perimeter since you left Cedar Gate. She showed them the tracking data. Clean, undeniable. They're staged half a mile from here right now, waiting. For what? Holloway asked. For us to give them a reason to move. Reeves pulled up another screen. Cedar Gate Medical Center. Demolition team entered through the maintenance entrance 18 minutes ago. They're placing charges in the basement. Structural supports, gas lines. When it blows, the building comes down in its own footprint. Looks like catastrophic failure. Elena checked the time. 23 minutes until detonation. Can you stop them? Not without authorization from someone above Carver. And everyone above Carver is probably in on this. Reeves looked at Mitchell. But if you broadcast proof of the program before that building blows, they lose their reason to destroy it. Witnesses don't matter if the truth is already public. Mitchell sat down in front of the camera. Elena positioned herself slightly behind him, visible in the frame but not central. Holloway stood at the tent entrance, weapon ready, watching the perimeter. Reeves checked the uplink. We're live in 30 seconds. Broadcasting to 6 independent platforms, 3 foreign servers, and a network of emergency backup systems. Once you start talking, this can't be stopped. Mitchell looked at Elena. Last chance to walk away. Not interested. Stubborn. You have no idea. Reeves counted down. 5, 4, 3, 2. Mitchell looked directly into the camera and spoke. My name is Aaron Mitchell. I'm a former Marine and current asset of a classified program called Project Hephaestus. For the past 18 months, the United States military has been conducting human experimentation designed to create enhanced operatives through neurological modification and chemical conditioning. I'm one of 15 subjects. 12 are dead, 2 have been reconditioned after psychological breaks.
I'm the only one left who remembers what they did to us. He held up the first document. Subject recruitment contracts. Names visible. Dates clear. These are the people who built the program. Military brass, Pentagon oversight, defense contractors, politicians who approved black budget funding. He laid out each page in front of the camera. Clear, methodical, damning. They told us we'd be heroes, that we'd serve our country. What they didn't tell us is we'd stop being human.
Elena watched the view counter on the tablet. 100 viewers, 500, 2,000. The numbers climbed exponentially. Mitchell continued. 6 hours ago, I was being held at Cedar Gate Medical Center under armed guard. A professional hit team breached the facility and attempted to execute me. They killed 23 civilians in the process, hospital staff, nurses, security guards, people who had nothing to do with the program except being in the wrong place at the wrong time. He showed photographs Elena had taken, bodies on the second floor, blood on the walls, evidence that couldn't be explained away. The United States government is currently planning to destroy Cedar Gate Medical Center to eliminate witnesses and bury evidence. There are demolition charges being placed right now. In approximately 20 minutes, that building will explode. 200 people will die, and it will be called an accident. 5,000 viewers? 10,000. The numbers kept climbing. Outside the tent, Elena heard engines. Multiple vehicles approaching fast. Reeves stepped outside, came back in with her weapon drawn. 3 SUVs, 8 contacts visible. Professional tactical formation. She looked at Mitchell. They're coming. Mitchell kept talking. The man ordering these killings is General William Carver. He oversees black operations for the Department of Defense. He authorized Project Hephaestus. He signed the orders that turned soldiers into weapons, and when those weapons broke, he ordered them destroyed along with anyone who knew they existed. 15,000 viewers, 20,000. The first gunshot shattered the silence outside. Holloway returned fire. The MPs engaged. Automatic weapons fire tore through the air like fabric ripping. Mitchell didn't flinch, just kept talking, kept showing documents, kept exposing every name and every crime while bullets punched through the tent walls around him. This is what happens when you try to tell the truth about illegal military programs. They send men to kill you. They destroy evidence. They murder civilians and call it collateral damage. Mitchell looked directly into the camera. I'm probably going to die in the next few minutes, but I'm dying human, not as a weapon, not as an asset, as someone who remembered what it means to choose. A round hit the camera. The image flickered, stabilized. Backup systems kicked in. The broadcast continued. Elena grabbed Mitchell's shoulder, pulled him down as more rounds tore through the tent. Reeves was on her radio, calling for backup. The firefight outside intensified. Someone screamed. Then silence. Then sustained fire. Mitchell crawled to the camera, adjusted the angle. Blood ran down his arm where shrapnel had cut him. He ignored it. Dr. Rebecca Marsh is currently in military custody. She built this program. She knows every detail, every subject, every crime. If anything happens to her, it proves the cover-up. He coughed. Pain or emotion, Elena couldn't tell. And if you're watching this, General Carver, you've already lost. The files are public. The names are public. You can kill us, but you can't kill the truth. 30,000 viewers, 40,000. Holloway stumbled back into the tent, blood streaming from a head wound. They're withdrawing. MPs have them pinned down. Reeves checked her tablet. Cedar Gate Medical Center. Demolition team is pulling out. Someone just called off the detonation. Elena felt something loosen in her chest. 200 people who would wake up tomorrow not knowing how close they'd come to dying. 23 who wouldn't wake up at all, but at least their deaths wouldn't be buried under rubble and lies. Mitchell slumped back from the camera, exhausted, hollowed out. He'd said everything that needed saying, shown everything that needed showing. The broadcast had run for 12 minutes. The view count had hit 50,000 and was still climbing. Reeves made a call, listened. Her expression shifted from grim to something approaching satisfaction. Federal prosecutors just issued warrants. Carver, 3 other generals, 15 defense contractors, Congressional Oversight Committee members. They're executing them now. That fast? Elena asked. They've been building the case for months. Suspected corruption in black budget programs but couldn't prove it. You just gave them everything they needed. Reeves looked at Mitchell. You might actually survive this. Mitchell said nothing, just stared at his hands.
The same hands that had killed 6 people tonight. The same hands they'd modified with chemical compounds and neurological rewiring. Still human, still his. Elena's phone rang. Hannah Vickers. You're viral. 500,000 views in 15 minutes. Every major news outlet is picking it up. The Pentagon just issued a statement calling for a full investigation. You did it. Elena looked at Mitchell, at Holloway bleeding from a scalp wound, at the bullet holes in the tent walls, at the bodies of MPS outside who died protecting them. We did something, she said quietly. I'm not sure what. Outside, the gunfire had stopped completely. MPs were securing the perimeter. Reeves was coordinating with federal agents who were apparently en route. The sun was rising properly now, turning the sky from gray to gold. They'd survived the night. Marsh was still unconscious in the medical tent. Mitchell sat against the wall, eyes closed, breathing like someone who'd forgotten how to rest. Holloway was getting his head wound treated by a medic who kept asking questions he wasn't answering. Elena stepped outside. The air was cold and clean. She could see the checkpoint gate, the barriers, the armed guards who'd held the line when it mattered. Beyond that, the road stretched toward a city that was waking up to news of a military scandal that would dominate headlines for months. Reeves joined her. Federal agents want statements, all of you. It'll take days. We're not going anywhere. You should be proud. You exposed a program that's been running unchecked for 3 years. You saved 200 lives. You made sure 23 deaths weren't buried and forgotten. Elena thought about Gloria, about the nurses on the second floor, about Rosa dying in her clinic to buy them time. I should have been faster. You were fast enough. That's all anyone can ask. A black sedan pulled up to the checkpoint. 2 men in suits got out. Federal agents, probably. Here to start the process of turning testimony into trials. Elena recognized the type. Career professionals who built cases one statement at a time until the weight became undeniable. Mitchell came outside, stood next to Elena without speaking. They watched the sun climb higher, burning off the morning haze. What happens now? He asked. Trials, testimony, years of legal proceedings. Elena looked at him. You ready for that? I'm ready to stop running. Then we don't run. Reeves called them over. The federal agents wanted to start interviews, get everything on record while it was fresh. Elena followed Mitchell toward the command tent, feeling the exhaustion starting to settle into her bones. The adrenaline was gone, the combat focus fading. Soon she'd feel everything, the fear, the pain, the grief for people she couldn't save. But not yet. Right now there was work to do, statements to give, justice to serve. The machinery of consequence was finally turning, and she needed to make sure it didn't stop. They were halfway to the tent when Holloway's phone rang. He answered, listened. His face went white. Say that again. Everyone stopped, turned. Holloway lowered the phone slowly. That was Fort Bragg Command. General Carver just issued a statement. He's claiming Project Hephaestus was an unauthorized rogue operation. Says he discovered it 3 weeks ago and was in the process of shutting it down when Mitchell went violent and killed federal contractors. Elena felt ice crystallize in her stomach. That's not... He's got documentation. Authorization forms with forged signatures. Financial records showing payments to offshore accounts under Marsh's name. Testimony from 2 other generals confirming they warned him about the program months ago. Holloway looked sick. He's framing Marsh, making her the architect and himself the whistleblower. Mitchell's hands curled into fists. He can't get away with that. We have the files, the testimony. He's got higher clearance, better lawyers, and 3 decades of knowing how to survive scandals. Reeves was already on her tablet, pulling up Carver's statement. He's claiming Mitchell's neurological modifications make him an unreliable witness, that the conditioning pharmaceuticals cause paranoid delusions, that everything in the broadcast is the product of a traumatized mind seeking someone to blame. What about Marsh? Elena asked. Unconscious, can't refute his claims. And when she wakes up, she's facing federal charges with life sentences. If Carver offers her immunity in exchange for corroborating his version, Reeves didn't finish. Didn't need to. Elena looked at Mitchell, saw the realization settling over him like a shroud. They'd exposed the program, saved the hospital, gone public with evidence. And Carver was already 3 steps ahead, turning their victory into his exoneration. He's been planning this, Mitchell said quietly. The whole time. He let us run. Let us gather evidence. Let us broadcast it. Because he knew exactly how to spin it once we did. Holloway slammed his fist against the tent wall. So what do we do? Reeves pulled up her tablet, started making calls. We build a better case. Find the documentation he can't forge. Get testimony from sources he can't discredit. It'll take time, but we don't have time, Elena interrupted. She was thinking fast now, working through options. Carver's statement is out there right now. The media's running with it. By tomorrow, the narrative is set. Mitchell's the violent asset. Marsh is the rogue scientist. Carver's the hero who tried to stop them. Then what do you suggest? Reeves asked. Elena looked at Mitchell. You said the tracking particles stay active for 90 days. Yes. And they're in every Phase 3 asset. Yes, including the ones who've been reconditioned. Mitchell's eyes widened. There are 2 others, both still operational, both under Carver's direct command. If we can find them, get them to testify, show that the reconditioning is real and ongoing. Elena felt the pieces clicking together. Carver can't claim he was shutting down a program if he's still actively using the assets it created. Reeves was already typing. I can pull deployment records, see where the other assets are stationed. She looked up. But if they've been reconditioned, they won't remember the truth. They'll defend Carver. Then we unrecondition them, Mitchell said. That's not possible. It wasn't possible for me to refuse orders either, but I did. Mitchell's voice was steady now, focused. The conditioning isn't perfect. It breaks under the right stress. We just need to find the crack. Holloway's phone buzzed again. He read the message, looked up with an expression Elena couldn't read. Cedar Gate Medical Center. They just found something in the basement, where the demolition charges were placed. What did they find? Reeves asked. A body, male, late 30s, covered in surgical scars matching Mitchell's description. Holloway's voice was quiet, careful. They're running DNA now, but preliminary identification suggests it's another Phase 3 asset. The tent went silent. Elena spoke first. Carver wasn't trying to blow up the hospital to eliminate witnesses. He was trying to destroy evidence of a failed asset. Which means there might be more, Mitchell said. More bodies. More failures. More proof that the program didn't end 3 weeks ago. Reeves made another call, spoke in clipped sentences, hung up and looked at them with something approaching hope. I'm pulling records on every military facility with basement-level morgue access. If Carver's been disposing of failed assets, there'll be a pattern. Refrigeration usage, power consumption, something we can track. Elena checked her phone. Hannah Vickers had sent another message. Carver's statement is falling apart under scrutiny. Keep pushing. They'd bought themselves time. Not much, but enough to keep fighting. Mitchell looked at the rising sun, then back at Elena. You were right about making them pay. We're not done yet. I know. He almost smiled. That's why I'm still here. Reeves gathered them around the tablet. Here's what we do next. We find the other assets. We document every body Carver tried to hide. We build a case so airtight that no amount of spin can explain it away. She looked at each of them. It won't be fast, it won't be clean, but if you're committed, we can finish this. Elena thought about the nurses, about Rosa, about 12 soldiers in Afghanistan who died trusting her to save them, about all the ways she'd failed before and all the ways she refused to fail now. We're committed, she said. Outside, more vehicles were arriving. Federal agents, military police, forensic teams, the machinery of justice grinding into motion with agonizing slowness, but moving nonetheless. Mitchell stood up, winced at the shrapnel wound in his arm. Elena grabbed medical supplies, started cleaning it despite his protests. Old habits. Keeping people alive long enough to see tomorrow. Holloway was on the phone with someone at Pentagon. Reeves was coordinating with FBI. The sun kept rising, indifferent to human struggles, marking time the way it always had. And in the medical tent, Marsh opened her eyes and spoke 2 words that changed everything. I'll testify. They moved Marsh to a secure interview room within minutes. Federal agents positioned themselves at every entrance. Reeves set up recording equipment with the methodical precision of someone who knew one missed detail could collapse an entire case. Elena stood against the wall, watching Marsh struggle to sit upright despite the chest tube and broken ribs. The woman's face was gray with pain, but her eyes were clear now, focused. Why the change of heart? Mitchell asked.
No hostility, just genuine curiosity. Marsh looked at her hands. Because I listened to your broadcast. Heard you say you'd rather die human than live as a weapon. She coughed, pressed a hand to her ribs. I built this program believing we were creating heroes, soldiers who'd protect this country better than anyone before them. What I actually created was a machine that devours people and spits out casualties. That doesn't answer the question. I had a son. Marsh's voice cracked. Marine, deployed to Syria in 2019, came home with PTSD so severe he couldn't sleep without screaming. The VA couldn't help him. Medication didn't work. Therapy didn't work. He put a gun in his mouth 2 years ago. Tears tracked down her face. I told myself Project Hephaestus would prevent that. That if we could condition soldiers to handle trauma better, to process fear differently, we'd save lives. But all I did was create a different kind of death. One where you're still breathing, but everything that made you human is gone. Holloway spoke quietly from the corner. My men died protecting a lie. Tell me it meant something. It meant everything. Marsh looked at him. Because their deaths are the proof Carver can't spin. He can claim the program was unauthorized. He can say I went rogue, but he can't explain why federal contractors opened fire in a civilian hospital, why demolition teams were planning charges in the basement, why 3 tactical teams pursued you across the city. She straightened despite the pain. I'll testify to all of it. Every name, every authorization, every crime. And I'll make sure everyone knows Carver signed off on everything. Reeves started the recording. State your name and position for the record. Dr. Rebecca Marsh, Director of Neurological Enhancement Programs, Department of Defense Strategic Operations Division. She took a breath. For the past 3 years, I've overseen Project Hephaestus, a classified program designed to create enhanced military operatives through neurological modification, chemical conditioning, and psychological restructuring. The program was authorized by General William Carver and operated with full knowledge of Pentagon oversight committees. She laid out everything: subject recruitment, the conditioning protocols that broke soldiers down to neural pathways and rebuilt them as weapons, the pharmaceutical compounds that kept their adrenal systems in permanent overdrive, the psychological torture disguised as training, 15 subjects, 12 dead, 2 reconditioned after psychological breaks, 1, Mitchell, who'd somehow retained enough humanity to refuse orders. General Carver knew about every failure, Marsh said. He signed disposal authorizations for the deceased assets. He approved reconditioning for the 2 who broke. And when Mitchell refused his termination order, Carver personally authorized the containment operation at Cedar Gate Medical Center. Can you prove that? Reeves asked. Marsh pulled a small data chip from her pocket. This contains encrypted communications between Carver and myself spanning 3 years. Authorization codes, mission parameters, kill orders, everything. She placed it on the table. I kept it as insurance. Carver taught me early that people in our line of work don't survive without leverage. Elena thought about Rosa, about the nurses, about how many people had died because Marsh wanted insurance instead of accountability, but she kept her mouth shut. They needed the testimony more than they needed absolution. Reeves took the chip, handed it to a federal agent who disappeared immediately. She turned back to Marsh. General Carver is claiming the program was unauthorized, that he discovered it 3 weeks ago and was working to shut it down. He's lying. Marsh's voice was flat, cold. I have his signature on every major decision for the past 3 years. Budget approvals, subject authorizations, operational deployments. If he claims he didn't know, ask him to explain why his personal authorization code appears on 73 separate classified documents related to Hephaestus. Mitchell leaned forward. What about the other 2 assets, the ones who were reconditioned? Operatives designated Ajax and Nero, both currently deployed under Carver's direct command. Ajax is running counterterrorism operations in North Africa. Nero is assigned to domestic threat assessment. Marsh pulled up information from memory, rattled off deployment codes and unit assignments. They've been reconditioned to believe they volunteered for advanced training. They don't remember the modifications, don't remember the conditioning, don't remember what they were before. Can they be unreconditioned? Elena asked. Theoretically. The process isn't perfect. Memories don't disappear. They're suppressed through pharmaceutical intervention and reinforced psychological conditioning. Under the right stimulus, They could surface. Marsh looked at Mitchell. You broke conditioning through moral conflict. Something in the termination order contradicted your core identity strongly enough that the programming couldn't hold. If we can find that same kind of trigger for Ajax and Nero,
We might get 2 more witnesses, Reeves finished. She made a call, spoke in rapid-fire military shorthand, hung up and looked at Mitchell. How fast can you get to North Africa? I'm not going anywhere, Mitchell said. Ajax comes to me. That's not how this works. It is now. Mitchell's voice carried the authority of someone who'd stopped asking for permission. You want Ajax's testimony? Pull him stateside. Tell him there's a security briefing he needs to attend. Get him in the same room as me. I'll handle the rest. Reeves studied him for a long moment, then nodded. I'll make it happen. The next 48 hours blurred together in a chaos of statements and coordination. Federal agents interviewed each of them separately, together, then separately again, building redundancy. Cross-referencing timelines, making sure every detail matched across every testimony. Hannah Vickers' story had gone viral globally. The Pentagon was in crisis mode. 3 generals had already resigned. Congressional oversight committees were calling emergency sessions, and Carver was fighting back. His lawyers issued statements hourly, claiming fabricated evidence, demanding investigations into Marsh's mental state, arguing that Mitchell's neurological modifications made him legally incompetent to testify. The media was split, half treating it as the scandal of the decade, half treating it as conspiracy theory run amok. Elena watched it unfold from the secure facility where they were being held under protective custody. Not quite prisoners. Not quite free. Holloway paced the common area like a caged animal. Mitchell sat motionless for hours, only moving when Reeves brought updates. On the 3rd day, Ajax arrived. They brought him in under the guise of a security briefing. Mid-30s, muscular, with the same surgical scars Mitchell carried but hidden under civilian clothes. His eyes were sharp but empty. No recognition, no awareness of what he'd been or what they'd done to him. Mitchell met him in a controlled environment, observation room, one-way mirror, Reeves and Elena watching from the other side, Holloway with them, weapon ready in case things went wrong. Operative Ajax, Mitchell said. Do you know who I am? Ajax's eyes flickered. You're Aaron Mitchell, classified asset, terminated for insubordination. That's what they told you. What do you remember about the program? Advanced training, specialized operations, voluntary enhancement protocols. Voluntary. Mitchell leaned forward. Do you remember signing consent forms? Of course. What did they say? Ajax hesitated, just a fraction of a second, but Elena caught it. So did Mitchell. They outlined the training parameters, pharmaceutical support, psychological conditioning, standard procedure for specialized units. Name 1 other soldier in your unit. Silence. Ajax's face went carefully blank. That's classified. Because there was no unit. Just you. Just 15 subjects in a program designed to break you down and rebuild you as something that follows orders without question. Mitchell pulled up his sleeve, showed the surgical scars on his forearm. You have these too. Do you remember getting them? Medical procedures, part of the enhancement process. What did they enhance? Ajax opened his mouth, closed it, opened it again. Nothing came out. The conditioning was cracking. Elena could see it, the micro-expressions of someone trying to access memories that had been chemically locked away. You remember, Mitchell said quietly. Don't you? Somewhere deep down, you remember what they did to us. No. I volunteered. I signed the consent forms. I agreed to... Ajax's voice was rising, becoming agitated. I agreed to everything. Then why can't you remember signing? Silence. Ajax's hands were shaking now, tremors that started small and built to visible shudders. Withdrawal symptoms, probably. The conditioning pharmaceuticals fighting against surfacing memories. Mitchell stood up, moved closer. Your name isn't Ajax. That's a designation. A call sign for something that used to be human. What's your real name? Ajax's breathing was rapid now, shallow, panic response breaking through pharmaceutical suppression. I can't. Yes, you can. What's your name? Ajax. I'm Ajax. That's who I am. That's what I... He stopped.
His face went white. "Marcus, my name is Marcus Delgado." The dam broke. Marcus collapsed to his knees, gasping like he'd been underwater for 3 years, and finally reached the surface. Memories flooding back. The recruitment. The promises. The conditioning that stripped away everything he'd been and replaced it with programming. Mission after mission where he'd followed orders without asking why, because asking why meant the pain started and didn't stop until you forgot how to question. Elena watched through the glass as Mitchell knelt beside him, put a hand on his shoulder. Two soldiers who'd survived the same machine, both damaged, both still fighting to stay human. Reeves recorded everything. Federal agents took statements. By the time they finished, Marcus had given them enough testimony to bury Carver 10 times over. Detailed accounts of missions, kill orders, operations that violated international law and domestic prohibitions. Everything backed up by his own modified neural patterns that couldn't be explained as voluntary enhancement. Nero, real name Catherine Voss, no relation to Elena, took longer. She'd been reconditioned twice. The memories were buried deeper. But Mitchell found the crack. A mission where she'd been ordered to terminate a target who turned out to be her former commanding officer, someone she'd trusted, respected. The conflict had been enough to destabilize the conditioning. Under controlled decompression, her memories surfaced, fragmented, traumatic, but present. 3 assets, 3 testimonies, all corroborating Marsh's documentation, all pointing to Carver as the architect and primary executor. The media stopped splitting. The story was too massive, too well documented, too backed by multiple independent sources to dismiss. Congressional hearings were scheduled. The FBI opened a criminal investigation. The Pentagon placed Carver on administrative leave while they reviewed the allegations. He fought it, issued statements claiming fabricated evidence, demanded polygraph tests, which he then refused when Marsh agreed to take one. His lawyers filed motions to suppress testimony from Mitchell, Marcus, and Catherine on grounds of mental incompetence due to neurological modification. The judge denied the motion. The neurological modifications were performed without informed consent as part of an illegal military program, the ruling stated. To claim those modifications now render the subjects incompetent would be to allow the defendants to benefit from their own criminal conduct. Motion denied. Carver's legal strategy collapsed. His political protection evaporated. One by one, the people who'd supported him distanced themselves. Senate allies stopped returning calls. Pentagon brass issued statements condemning the program they'd quietly funded for years. Defense contractors who'd profited from the research suddenly had no record of involvement. The trial lasted 6 weeks. Elena testified on day 3, described the massacre at Cedar Gate in clinical detail, listed every casualty by name, made the jury see them as people, not statistics. Rosa, Gloria, the nurses on the second floor who died because they'd worked the wrong shift. Mitchell testified on day 12, laid out the entire conditioning process, let them see the scars, let them understand what it meant to have your humanity stripped away and replaced with programming, refused to cry or show weakness because that's what Carver's lawyers wanted, a broken veteran they could dismiss as traumatized. Marsh testified on day 18, walked the jury through every document, every authorization, every decision point where someone could have stopped the program and chose not to. Her testimony was devastating, methodical, backed by evidence that couldn't be explained away. The verdict came on a Tuesday afternoon. Guilty on all counts: conspiracy, murder, violation of the Uniform Code of Military Justice, conduct unbecoming an officer, crimes against humanity. Carver showed no emotion when they read it, just stood at attention like he was receiving orders. Even now, playing the soldier. Still believing he'd done what was necessary. The judge gave him life without parole. 3 consecutive life sentences, to be exact. 1 for each operative who'd died under his command and whose families would never know the truth because it was still classified. Elena watched from the gallery, felt nothing. No satisfaction, no relief. Just exhaustion and the weight of 23 names she'd carry forever. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed. Cameras, questions. Mitchell, Marcus, and Catherine stood together and gave one statement. We were soldiers who trusted our country to use us honorably. That trust was betrayed. We were modified, conditioned, and deployed against our will. Some of us survived. Most didn't. Today's verdict doesn't bring them back, but it proves that even in classified programs, even in the darkest corners of military operations, there are still consequences. There is still accountability. There is still justice. They didn't take questions, just walked away while cameras tracked them.
Elena found Mitchell 3 blocks away, sitting on a bench outside a coffee shop. He looked smaller somehow, less like a weapon, more like a man who'd finally stopped running.
"You okay?" she asked. "I don't know what okay feels like anymore." He looked at his hands. "I spent 18 months being told these were tools, weapons to be deployed and discarded. Now I'm supposed to believe they're mine again."
Elena sat down beside him.
"They were always yours. The program tried to take them. You took them back. What do I do now? I can't exactly list enhanced military operative on a resume." "You could teach. Self-defense, combat training. There are programs for veterans transitioning to civilian life." Mitchell was quiet for a moment. "Holloway offered me a job, working with Major Reeves, investigating Black Ops programs, making sure nothing like Hephaestus happens again." "You gonna take it?" "I don't know. Part of me wants to walk away. Never think about any of this again. But the other part," he trailed off. "There are probably more programs out there, more soldiers being used and discarded. Someone needs to find them." "Sounds like you already decided." He almost smiled. "What about you? Going back to nursing?" Elena thought about Cedar Gate, about the 3rd floor, and Mrs. Brennan, and the ordinary work of keeping people alive. It felt like a different life. Someone else's story. "Major Reeves offered me a position too, medical consultant for Black Ops oversight, making sure experimental programs aren't violating medical ethics." She looked at Mitchell. "I think I'm going to take it." "Because you can't walk away either." "Because I'm tired of watching people die for classified reasons." Elena stood up. "Rosa died buying us time. Those nurses died because they were in the wrong place. If I can stop that from happening to someone else, I have to try." Mitchell stood too, extended his hand. "Partners, then." She shook it. "Partners." They walked back to the courthouse together, found Marcus and Catherine giving interviews to victims' rights groups, found Holloway coordinating with federal agents on program oversight legislation, found Marsh being led away in handcuffs. Her testimony had earned her a reduced sentence, but she was still serving 15 years for her role in the program. The media circus continued for weeks. Congressional hearings, Department of Defense restructuring, new oversight requirements for classified research programs, laws named after the victims that would probably be watered down in committee, but at least acknowledged something had gone catastrophically wrong. Elena testified before Congress on day 43, told them about combat triage decisions, about choosing who lives and who dies when resources are limited, about how the same calculation had been made with Project Hephaestus, sacrificing soldiers' humanity for operational efficiency. "You can't create weapons out of people without destroying what makes them people," she said. "And when you try, when you build programs designed to strip away conscience and replace it with compliance, you don't get heroes. You get casualties. Some die immediately, some die slowly, but they all die. The only question is whether we're going to admit that or keep pretending we can build better soldiers by making them less human." The committee thanked her for her testimony, promised reforms, pledged oversight. She didn't believe half of it, but she'd said what needed saying. The rest was up to people who'd never watched someone die from choices they'd made. 6 months later, Elena stood in the parking lot of a rebuilt Cedar Gate Medical Center. They'd kept the name despite everything, renovated the 3rd floor, installed a memorial plaque listing the 23 people who'd died. Rosa's name was there, Gloria's, all the nurses, all the guards. Elena traced Rosa's name with her finger. 73 years old, with arthritis and a bad heart, had died buying time for people she didn't know because it was the right thing to do. "You would have hated the memorial service," Elena said quietly. "Too formal. Too many people pretending they knew you." She left flowers. White roses because the florist said they meant remembrance. Stood there for a while just breathing. The air smelled like rain and exhaust and city life continuing despite everything. Her phone buzzed. Mitchell. They had a lead on another program. Experimental pharmaceutical trials using active duty soldiers as test subjects without informed consent. Reeves wanted them in D.C. by morning. Elena looked at the plaque one more time. At all the names. All the lives cut short by people who'd valued operational security over human dignity. Then she walked to her car and drove toward the airport. The work wasn't finished, probably never would be. There would always be programs operating in shadows, people making decisions that traded lives for classified objectives, soldiers who trusted the system to protect them and got broken by it instead. But now there were people watching, people asking questions, people refusing to accept that some crimes were too classified to prosecute. Elena had been a nurse who got dismissed as irrelevant, just civilian staff who should stay in her lane. She'd been overlooked, underestimated, treated like furniture by people who thought authority was the same as competence. Turned out they were wrong. She'd survived Kandahar by learning when to stay quiet and when to fight. She'd survived Cedar Gate by refusing to stay quiet when fighting mattered most. And now she was fighting in a different way, exposing the machinery that devoured soldiers and spit out casualties. It wasn't glamorous. Wasn't easy. She still woke up some nights hearing screams that might have been Rosa's or might have been soldiers in Afghanistan, or might have been her own voice echoing back from decisions that haunted her. But she was still here, still pushing back, still proving that the quiet ones, the overlooked ones, the people dismissed as irrelevant could change everything when they decided to stop accepting what they were told. Mitchell met her at the airport, Marcus and Catherine too. 4 people who'd survived the same machine through different paths. Damaged but not broken. Modified but still human. Ready? Mitchell asked. Elena thought about Rosa, about Gloria, about 12 soldiers in Kandahar who'd trusted her with their lives, about all the ways she'd failed and all the ways she refused to fail again. Ready? She said. They boarded the plane together, toward the next investigation, the next program that needed exposing, the next fight that nobody else was willing to start. Because someone had to ask questions when the answers were classified. Someone had to remember the casualties when everyone else wanted to move on. Someone had to prove that even in the darkest corners of military operations, there were still consequences, still accountability, still justice. And Elena Voss, combat medic, trauma nurse, overlooked civilian who'd decided to stop being quiet, was done letting other people tell her what battles were worth fighting. She'd learned the hard way that silence protected the wrong people, that staying in your lane meant watching others die in yours, that the system didn't fix itself. It took people willing to break it first. Rosa had bought them time with her life. The nurses had died for being in the wrong place. Carver was in prison, but the machinery that built him was still running. The work continued. The fight wasn't over. And Elena Voss was just getting started.